About a week ago, a lawsuit was filed against Emory University by this man and his family about a missing skull. They lost his skull. That's exactly what the lawsuit is claiming. So let me explain how this could possibly happen. Reportedly, this patient had a hemorrhagic stroke requiring a decompressive craniectomy, which is a surgery in which a neurosurgeon will remove part of the patient's skull to allow the brain to swell in the setting of stroke. That is a life-saving procedure for a patient, but after the swelling goes down, we need to replace that bone back on so the patient can live a normal life. So what happens to the bone flap after it's taken off and before it's put back on? Some surgeons will implant the piece of skull in the patient's stomach so we can get it for later use, but other hospitals will take the bone and put it in the freezer. Are you serious? After the bone is removed from the patient, we sterilely package it, put it in the deep freezer, label it, and then we can find it, retrieve it later, and put it back in the patient. But what this lawsuit claims is that they could not properly identify the bone, therefore they couldn't prove that that bone belonged to that patient, so the surgeons canceled his surgery and then had a 3D synthetic flap made, which is exactly what this model shows. We can make a three-dimensional model of the patient's skull and customize a prosthetic flap to replace on the patient's head. Reportedly, this cosmetic flap ran the cost of $18,000 that was charged to the family, even though the hospital lost the patient's bone flap. What I imagine could have happened, which I've seen happen before, is that a patient sticker was pasted on the packaging of this patient's bone flap and then in the freezer somehow got disrupted from the packaging and lost. Therefore, the flap could not be properly identified. Do you think that this patient should have been charged for this prosthetic flap even though the hospital lost his? Let me know what you think in the comment section.